Hi, my name's Jim Conway, and this is the Shuttle Pod Show.
Do the scene, and you're like, well, we need a lot more here. This is clearly an alternate universe, yada, yada, yada. And I said, what? So, like a pirate? And you go like, yeah, try that. We shoot the scene, you go cut, print, and I go, no, I was kidding.
Gonna go and do my convention thing. Got my costume, I'm going now. Yeah, we're having a ball. It's Star Trek, y'all. Hey, down the border, beam me up.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Shuttle Pod Show. Today we have very special guest, James L. Conway. We'll be answering your fan questions, playing some Star Trek trivia, finding ourselves on Connor's remote island, and much more. As always, our Patreon members get a full, extended, and ad-free version of this episode. I'm Erica LaRose, but before we move on, we have a special message from Andy Robinson.
Like, subscribe, and join us on Patreon.
Thanks, Andy! And now for your hosts, Connor TRINNEER and Dominic.
Hello, darling. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you
It's been a little
too.
while.
I almost wore the same outfit today.
You did? God bless. I'm glad
Then
got
you
the
saw
memo.
that and you decided, no, I'm going to go with this.
I almost
I'm not
wore
even
that.
drinking.
It's not Halloween now, Jim. But we would have paid for that. So did I. That would have been,
Next time, we'll coordinate.
would have been a turn up. We all wear the little maroon dress.
Oh my God, can you imagine? How you doing?
I missed Robbie Duncan. How was it? Was he great?
It was great, you know,
Yeah, he's a
knowing
sweetheart,
Robbie the
isn't
way
he?
that we do.
Yeah.
He was a fantastic, easy, fun
Yeah.
interview, and you know, I literally weren't able to cover everything we wanted to because we ran out of time.
All right.
Yeah, maybe we can get him back.
that'd
But
be
it was
nice.
great. He was great.
I wished him happy
Really great.
birthday on Facebook. So.
Oh,
He
yeah,
said-
I saw that it was his birthday.
Yeah.
I don't think we knew that here yet.
Well, he did say when he came in, he was like, "I've eaten so much sugar in the
Oh.
last 2 days." He's like,
I missed that. Yeah.
but he was great. It was great.
Well, so without further ado,
Yeah.
ladies and gents, boys and girls, Treks and Trekkers, welcome back to the Shuttle Pod Show. I'm your co-host, Dominic Keating. We're so excited and delighted to have in the Golden Throne this week the man who set the template for our show with Broken Bow. And he's an old alum of Star Trek. I think he's had 18 episodes all told under his belt. There are some stories that, you know, he nearly got the big job too, didn't you? We will get into that
Oh, yes,
with
right.
the film.
Yes.
You know, without further ado, he's missed the TV, really. He had a good 6 years at Spelling Entertainment, directing and producing some of the biggest shows on your telly. He is Mr. Jim Conway. God
Thank you
bless
very much.
Jim.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here.
Delighted, mate. It's been a little while. I mean, the last time I think we actually saw each other, the three of us, was when we did the Blu-rays. And they had us in to do some of the commentary.
That was
That's right.
like 8 years ago.
Oh,
right?
10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, that was for the Enterprise pilot. I also was at a convention in Las Vegas
Did we
where I
catch
think
each other?
I think we saw you
okay.
there.
I had
Yeah.
a feeling
It's
it was
the one and only convention I've gone to, but
Yeah.
it was fantastic.
Was it in Vegas? Yeah, the
Yeah,
Vegas.
it was Vegas.
one.
Yeah, it was so many people and so many people who loved the show. It was just great.
It's an amazing.
That was the only
experience,
time
isn't
you'd
it?
gone to a convention?
So,
Oh,
first and
really?
only. Yeah.
Would you go again?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, they're great.
They
fun.
don't seem to want directors very much. It's mostly you guys that they all.
That's a
want.
weird one, that, isn't it? And I know who is it? It's because he was doing the Blu-rays with us. Dan Curry. They've never had Dan ever, and I know that sort of smarts with him. That I know.
yeah.
I
That
find it
doesn't make sense.
surprising, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. Like, you'd want to know the kind of experiences and information that can be imparted by.
If Dan would just show some of the work he did for the shows, it would be so impressive. The
Oh,
other
amazing.
fans would love it. Yeah.
I mean, he was an
He's
integral.
he's
part in
designed
all
so many
those
different
shows.
things for so many of the shows.
Yeah, I remember we did the commentary tracks. We took a break, and it was quite something to see that young man up on that screen. And this was only 10 years after the event. And then I went for a pee in the loo then, had that dreadful neon track overhead lighting, and I looked at this craggy bitch in the fucking mirror. Tell you, it took me a couple of weeks to get over that. It really impressed me.
Well, there's a story about the two good friends who are sitting in a restaurant and they're chatting, and one of them says to they're old friends, and one of them says to the other, "See those two guys over there? Those two old guys? One day that'll be us."
be us.
And the other guy says, "That's a mirror."
Oh, I love that.
Yikes.
It's like a New Yorker cartoon.
Yeah, right.
So you've just come back from Park City, we understand, where you
Yes.
now summer and spring, is it? Yeah.
Spring, summer, and fall in Park
That's
City.
lovely.
Yeah.
What a ghost. And of course, you were saying earlier that you got to know this part of the world. You shot
Grizzly Adams.
Grizzly Adams there,
right.
which was one of your first directorial jobs, I take it.
For television.
For telly,
it was.
yeah.
I had done we had a company called Sun Classic, and
That's
we
right.
and we did.
Was that your affair with it?
Yes.
Son? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. And so I was head of production and the director and wrote a lot of the things. And we started doing sort of pseudo documentaries in Search of Noah's Ark. And then we also did.
You were way ahead of the curve with that sort of stuff.
We were.
Yeah.
And it was four walling. When
Right.
that company started, they started with animal movies and hunting movies.
Right.
And no theater or distributor would touch them. So what they did is they went to a theater in a local town and they said, we're going to buy you out for the week, four wall. We're going to buy all four walls, paid them cash up front, and then they took every penny that came into the box office. And if you remember, in those days, this is in the mid to late 70s, feature films that came out, there was 2 or 3 prints per city, and they would be there for 2 or 3 months,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
they'd slowly spread out.
Yeah.
Nobody advertised movies on TV.
No.
We did, because our movies came in and they were only in this theater for 3 nights, that theater for 2 nights, and so we had a commercial and it says 2 nights only at the Strand, 3 nights at this.
Right.
And we did all these commercials because we had to come in and go out 1 week only, sometimes 3 days only, and all the money was in cash.
Who was financing this for you?
It was owned by a company called, Sun Classic was owned by a guy named Patrick Frawley, who
Right.
was a very wealthy LA investor who had the chic drinking clinics, smoking clinics. He one of the,
Oh, yeah,
one of
yeah.
the things.
Right.
And he was a Catholic, and he was involved in a big Catholic charity as well. I'm blanking on it. But they also owned Classics
The
Illustrated.
Jesus Fund.
Well, remember Classics Illustrated comics? It was a
Yes.
comic version, like the shortened version, but it was comic books of all the great classics. And so once we did Grizzly Adams, and that was a big hit for NBC, I went and
Well,
pitched to NBC. We want to do a series of 12 movies of the week called Classics Illustrated Presents. Now we were all in our, I was
Kids, really.
I was 24, 25 years old, 26. Everybody was in their 20s, and we were shooting non-union in non-IA in Utah, but it was SAG and it was Writers Guild, and so we pitched the 12 movies of the week, and they said yes. Now we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We didn't know that we couldn't do what we thought we were going to do, so we went and just did it. We did Huckleberry Finn, and we did Last of the Mohicans, and we did The Time Machine, and
I
a
saw
bunch.
all of these.
Who was writing these scripts for you?
LA writers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We once we got the deal, then I went to LA.
Were they
and hired
writing
a
them
bunch
in
of
2
writers.
weeks apiece or something?
Well, no, it was done over
Yes.
like 2 or 3 years. It was,
Right,
it was,
okay,
but
right.
it was learn as you earn for all of us, and we traveled
Sure.
around the country shooting these things. And living in Park City, you weren't there in the winter because the weather was bad, so we would travel everywhere to shoot in the winters, and it was great. So we had Grizzly Adams going for 2 seasons. People think it was longer, but it was actually
only went
only
2 seasons?
2 seasons and a movie afterwards. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
You
there was
grew
a-
up with that,
Oh
I
my
take it.
God.
There was
I
a-
loved that.
I
there
think
was
it came to England. I'm pretty sure I watched that as a
Oh yeah,
young
absolutely.
man.
In fact, I remember being in Paris, and it was on in Paris, and it was dubbed.
French, yeah.
And I said, you know what? The acting's better.
The bear seems to be promoting so much more.
It was very funny. But so based on that success, I really got an interesting introduction to the business because I learned to do every genre that there was.
Yeah.
And I was running the company and directing if I wasn't writing, and then helping other people when they were doing it. We were doing 2 full-time crews. I'm still friends with a lot of these people from back in the
You were
70s.
directing at the same time as and producing and
Yeah.
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 That's a lot of.
It was a lot of.
But you, to this point, you from New York, born in New York.
New York till I was 10, Chicago through high school.
All right.
And then I went to the University of Denver
Denver, right? Yeah.
to study film, television.
So you went there to what gave you the taste that you as a 12, 15-year-old that I want to go do this?
I was 14, and we were on a family vacation. We went to a dude ranch and then the Grand Canyon in San Francisco, and then we ended up in Hollywood, LA.
Right.
And my mother had a cousin who worked for a company and got us a tour, backstage tour, and a stunt show.
Oh, brilliant.
And I fell in love with that whole thing. So at 14, I decided what I wanted to do. Got myself a Super 8 camera,
Amazing.
started making movies.
What did mum and dad do then? What was?
My mother at that point was just a housewife, but my parents got divorced shortly
can't say that
thereafter.
anymore.
And now she became a stockbroker. She
Ah,
became
she
one of
really?
the first women stockbrokers.
All right.
And my dad was in the lingerie business. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just the
He was-
lingerie
he was a
salesman.
He was a salesman for a company.
Wow.
Irish.
Yeah.
Say anything.
And then he left us for one of his models.
Did he?
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
You still friends?
Oh.
Well, were you still friends with him?
That's
Is he still with us?
Jesus.
or-
He passed away. You know, we had a relationship. And it's funny. Here's truth. We
That's a
had
tough
a
one.
relationship, but when he died, I got a phone call, and all this anger that I had not allowed to come out suddenly came out.
Bless.
All the resentment and the anger that I had bottled up just to have a relationship came out, and it took a couple of years to get over that. I'm fine now.
Did
And it's
your
over.
mum get past and meet someone else, or was it always?
She had some other boyfriends, but she never married again.
Same with my mum and dad. My dad died. There were many suitors, but none suitable enough.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a time. Gosh.
I saw you wrote some books. Were any of them inspired by this?
No, the books I've written there's written 3 novels. They're
Yeah.
Hollywood thrillers, and they're basically fun thrillers. You know, they're funny,
You started
sexy.
those right after the fact, didn't you? When we saw each other all
Yeah.
those 2 years ago, you'd just written the first one.
The first one came out in 2012.
Yeah.
And then since I've now have 2 grandkids, I've written 4 kids books with rubber ducks.
Brilliant.
I love the combination. Like, you know, someone's buried in the cemetery and rubber duck meets the farm.
That's right.
He's a multifaceted man.
Yeah,
And not frightened of making some cash.
that's right.
What did I want to say about the books? You always wanted to write, didn't you? You always did write. And
Yes, I wrote my first book back in 1973 or 4, and it was called "The President's Brain is Missing," and it was
that was way ahead of its time as well.
and it was about here's what it was about: the President of the United States goes crazy, and his cabinet decides that the only way to protect his reputation is to have him assassinated before anyone finds out. And so they hire an assassin, and it's all about that. I had sold the book, but just before it was going to get published, somebody took a shot at
Reagan?
no, at Ford. Gerald
Oh
Ford.
yeah.
That's how long ago it was. At Gerald Ford, and suddenly they couldn't do that book.
And then Saturday Night Live had a whole segment on the president's brains gone missing, didn't they? Who was it?
They might have.
Someone chose. So you find yourself at Denver. You finished film school.
I was in school. What happened is my senior year in film school, I get a call. I happened to be in the office of the mass communications department, and the phone rings, and I pick it up, and it's a local guy looking for cheap labor to edit his commercials and industrial films. I said, "I'm your guy." So while I finished school, I was working for him, and after about 2 months, I said, "I can direct better than the people you're hiring," having never done it.
I was going to say, did you know? You didn't know.
No, I'd done some stuff in college, but no. So he said, okay, and he gave me a shot, and he liked what I did. And then we started making a lot of commercials and industrial films and won some awards, and that sort of launched the whole thing. And it was me being lucky enough to be in the office at that time to get that phone call.
Where was this? In what part of the country?
Denver.
In Denver, is it? Right. See it.
So you had no idea how to direct something. You just learned on the job.
I knew from college I had done some
done
some
some
stuff,
short,
but not where it was actually professional actors and professional
Right.
people.
Did you have to pick a concentration in college, like editing or directing, or?
This sort of covered it was everything. You had
Yeah.
classes in directing and writing
I
and
see.
producing and radio, television. It was
Why
sort of all
Denver in
that.
particular? It's not best. It's not best known, is it? I mean,
No, there weren't many film schools in 1968.
right.
So I didn't even apply to USC or NYU and UCLA. Those were the only big ones, really. Denver had this department, and so that's where I went. I didn't have the grades to go to better places. I sort of
Nice.
found myself in college. So if I'd worked harder in high school, I might have been able to get into a better college. But University of Denver was perfect
Would
for
have had
me.
to become an actor. So how then you finished in what gets you to Hollywood after the industrial
we're
period?
doing all these shows for NBC, and then we do a pilot for NBC, and the writer for it we hire is from Los Angeles, Michael Fisher, who was working for Aaron Spelling, and he had done Fantasy Island and was currently doing a show for them. He wrote the pilot for us. I directed it. We got along really well. I had met my wife and gotten married It's like 6 months before that. I'll tell you that story in a second. So Michael and I formed a relationship, and I knew it was time for me to leave Sun Classic because I wanted to get into Hollywood and do more mainstream stuff, bigger budget stuff.
And they weren't going to be.
They weren't doing that. In fact, the company had just been sold, and it was doing more low budget kind of stuff, which I was sort of done with. So I left Sun Classic, moved to LA. Becky was pregnant with our first child. I had no job, but Michael thought he could get me on the show. On a show he just got hired from Spelling to do called Matt Houston. And he did. I got hired as a story editor, and then I started directing the show, and by the third season I was running the show. And that started a 24-year relationship with Aaron Spelling and Duke Vincent. And I worked on many of their shows. I was their executive in charge of production for 6 years. I producing director on Charm for 5 years. So that started a very long-term relationship.
At some point.
Everybody's got questions about Charm.
How come you never cast me? That's one of the questions. God knows I went in after the fact too.
That's right. We should have. Why didn't we?
I don't know. Who knows? I mean, all I can tell you is that people I know, anyone that worked on that show went, "Oh, it's the longest 8 days of my life."
Yeah.
So there's that.
All right, so just to backtrack a little bit. So while we're there, we had been doing the Classics Illustrated kind of stuff and some of the docudrama kind of stuff. We wanted to move more into mainstream. We were going to do a horror movie called The Boogans.
Yes.
And so I went to LA to cast it, and Rebecca Balding, who became my wife, comes in, we chat, she reads, she leaves.
She's an actress.
Yes. Turned to the associate producer and said I could marry that girl.
Really?
Somehow she got cast.
Somehow she got cast.
There's my problem, you see.
Wednesday, the first week of shooting, we went out. That Saturday night, she proposed. And 4 weeks later, while still shooting the movie, we got married.
Is it a leap year or no?
and she was living with the guy at the time.
Wow.
Good Lord.
I know.
Wait, what? Really? So you were married within weeks, or?
We were married, 6 weeks from and we were still shooting the movie.
Crazy,
Why?
man.
We got married at my house in Park
And
City.
you've been married for how many years now?
She died last year, 41 years.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But it was
to hear that,
41
Jim.
years.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, bless me. That's really tough news. We had Doug Drexler here just a few weeks ago, and we talked about his wife passing to Dottie, and God bless. I'm very sorry.
It was fast and shocking, and
I'm very, very sorry, pal.
It's okay.
I didn't know
Thanks.
that. Well,
41
thanks
years
to you,
remarkable.
pal.
Yeah.
You got 2 lovely daughters and a bunch of grandkids.
2
now, I
daughters, 2
understand.
grandsons.
Yeah, how great.
2 girls, 2 boys.
They're keeping
2
you busy.
2 boys.
Right.
I have 2 daughters. Yeah, 2 girls did. 2
Yeah.
daughters and 2 grandsons.
Which of the grandkids do you credit for the duck books?
Well, Charlie was the first, so he inspired them.
Yeah.
So the years at Spelling, let me get this around my head. You start at Next Gen. Let's get into some Star Trek. That's why they're here. How do you get the first interview for the Next Generation? You did Justice was your first episode,
It was.
wasn't it?
So
What a crazy ass episode that is, by the way.
It was funny when I did the convention. A lot of the people there, not a lot, some were dressed like those people from Justice.
Oh, really?
It was unbelievable.
I
Those
felt for
skimpy
a couple of
clothes.
those boys in their skimpies. And it clearly was a bit cold.
Oh boy.
So I had been at Spelling. I had done 2 shows, Matt Houston for 3 years, and a show called Hollywood Beat, which failed after 13 episodes. And then I just went and was independently directing for a couple of years. And I worked for Paramount. I was doing MacGyver.
Right.
And they liked what I did on MacGyver. And the next year they said, we're going to be starting a new syndicated show of Star Trek. Were you a Star Trek fan? I said, I love Star Trek.
You did, didn't you?
So I went and
original.
I met Rick and Gene, and they hired me. So I was supposed to do 3 the first season, but the schedule changed. I only could do 2.
This is the original season.
Season
wasn't it?
1.
Yeah,
I directed. The only one to go from directing the very
And
first
the
season
last
to the very
episode.
last season.
Yeah, and you are, aren't you? Yeah. God bless.
Justice was your first episode, right?
Yes, it was.
That's the one where Wesley falls into the flowers and they want to kill him. And
they only have one punishment, and it's corporal.
death.
Yeah.
And it's a good episode though. I liked it. And I mean,
I watched it recently.
old-fashioned Star Trek.
Yes, I watched it recently for another podcast. There are other podcasts, and
We can talk about
I'm sorry, there are other podcasts?
or they're thinking about starting on that, whatever.
Not
But
as fun as this.
not nearly as big a production, that's for sure. And I watched it, and I was shocked at how stiff and formal the acting was. Yeah. Because it was, it just started, and I wasn't quite, and it was loose. I did then the season finale, and it was everybody was much looser by then.
A little looser, yeah.
And I think it was because it was just early on, and a lot of them may have been taking, Patrick was a very formal kind of character, the captain, and I think, so they sort of took their cue from that.
Right.
And hadn't really found themselves quite yet and loosened up. But I was shocked at how formal everybody was. And
it was interesting to see. I mean, no detriment, but just the shots were too. The actual formatting of the show.
Yeah.
It could have been. I mean, dare I say, an episode of Dynasty, or it was. It had its place in the TV. Plethora. And by the time I saw you come to do our pilot, my word, how different that was, and how advanced it had become.
And the styles had changed.
There was more money then too.
Yeah, styles had changed, from 1987
Completely
and 88
changed.
to that was 2000. But it became later on in Next Generation, and certainly on Deep Space Nine and Voyager. Everybody was trying all the different styles and things they could do, all sorts of visual effects and auto remote cameras and everything we could do to try to make it as stylish as we could, because it's a very talky show, so you want to keep the camera moving, and that sort of developed.
As a director with the technology, like how do you know, for instance, we went from film to digital
to the red camera,
and how is that a thing you're conscious of, or is it not your role? That's the DP's, cinematographer's.
You're conscious of everything. You watch everything. You listen to everything. As a director, I'm always watching other people's shows to see how style is developing, what new techniques and cameras and lenses and things are out there.
You've got homework all the time.
All the time. Yeah. And it's also fun stuff, because I'm an audience as well as a participant. So I love watching and TV.
You're quite tech-minded. Yeah. I think you've got to be, really, to be on that side of the camera. You
don't have to, but it helps.
It does help.
Beautiful photos as well.
Yes,
you do.
You do take a lot of photos.
What's your favorite camera?
Well, I shoot Sony. I have the A1 and I have the A7R4, but I also have Leica. I have a Leica Q3. Leica Q3, and I just bought yesterday an M6. It's still a film camera.
Wow. Yeah. Where'd you get stock for that then? I mean, they still make it.
Amazon. There's a lot of places that sell it.
Amazon.
A lot of people are starting to shoot film again.
Yeah.
It's just for fun. But
vinyl for.
I was taking pictures. There's a photo of me around the Christmas tree, and I have a camera on my neck when I was about 8 years old. So the cameras have always been a part of my life. Yeah. And that, as a director, helps. I've been looking through a lens an awful long time.
Right.
And so that's part of it too.
That last episode of the season 1, I was reading just now. It was during one of the writer strikes early on, and they wrote that script in a day and a half.
And then nobody could rewrite it. It was a mess of a script.
It was a mess of a script.
Yeah, and there was so many unresolved things, and it could have been. There was some interesting ideas in there that just weren't fully explored, but there was no way to do anything about it.
So, what explains the 6-year gap? Is you being at Spelling? Is it? And,
I was.
You don't come back till season 5, 6, is it? In Next Gen.
I was season 3 or 4 of Deep Space Nine. Oh, you mean that gap?
Yeah, that
there were 2 big gaps. Okay, so in '88, I was hired to be the supervising producer of a show called Paradise, which was a Western.
That was your own show, wasn't it?
On CBS with Lee Horsley, who I did Matt Houston with.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a wonderful. He was a gunslinger whose sister died and left him 4 kids, and he had to raise them in a Western town.
Right.
It was a great show. We did 3 seasons.
Right.
And then I did another show with David Jacobs, who was the executive producer of that show. He became my partner, and we did a show called Bodies of Evidence at Warner Brothers, which starred George Clooney.
Everything starred George Clooney.
For a minute.
But this was 2 seasons. And it was before George became a hit. And one of the reasons he became a star is Les Moonves. So Les was the president of Warner Brothers at the time.
Right.
Believed George would be a big star and put him under contract. And he sort of forced us to use him on our show.
Yeah, they did that in those days.
Yes, and George was great. I have to say, he's one of the nicest, most professional, greatest guys. And then our show was canceled. I left at that point. Les put him in Sisters as a recurring, and then put him in ER, and he finally exploded.
The rest is history.
So yeah. Anyway, so that 6 years was Paradise, and then a couple of years at Warner Brothers. And then I was free, and I called Rick, and I said, I'm finally available. I'd love to come play with you guys again. Mm-hmm. So he hired me, and I came back and did frame of mind.
Great. What a great episode.
Yeah.
I really
Season
love that
5.
episode.
And then he reminded him that he liked my work, and so immediately moved me over to
You did a
start
great
doing
job
DS.
on that. And Jonathan was terrific in it, wasn't he?
He was.
He really was. You've done a lot of Western stuff. I mean,
I have done
you
a lot of
know,
Western stuff.
Yeah. One of our
Is that by
producers.
chance or
Well, Grizzly Adams was a Western, and then one of the movies of the week we did,
Donner
Party.
Yeah.
And I
So one of our producers, Scott, watched as an 8-year-old.
Yes, well, my
He's still
daughter-
getting over it.
I'm gonna have left-hand soup tonight.
my daughter Katie, when she was about 7 or 8 years old, comes home one day and she says, "Dad, are you James L. Conway? Is there another James L. Conway?" And I said, "No, that's me. Why?" She said, "Because we watched
Yes,
this.
that's me.
We watched this movie in school today, The Donner Party, and it said directed by James L. Conway."
Do you want to come and talk about it next weekend?
So that was another Western. And I just love Westerns. I just sort of fall into it. I mean, in the old days, too, they would look at your credits and say, well, if somebody's done a Western before, then it's safe to hire them.
That's when you first met Jerry Fleck, too, isn't it, on the Grizzly? Was he the first
Yes.
AD on that, too?
Jerry Fleck was actually, when I was, even before that, briefly I was in Tampa, Florida, writing ads and cutting trailers for a movie called Impulse, a low-budget movie called Impulse, starring William Shatner.
No shit.
And Harold Ajab Sakata. And he made this, Shatner made this at his nadir. After Star Trek, he couldn't get arrested. It was a piece of crap, low-budget thriller that he was a star of. And I never met Bill in all those years. Anyway, I did that, and Jerry was a actor in the dinner theater there.
Oh my goodness.
And Chuck Sellier, the guy who plucked me out of college to go work for him.
I half remember the story about
Yeah,
Jerry.
he and Jerry formed a friendship, and Chuck hired Jerry to be his assistant. And that began, that
bless
was
Jerry.
1973 or 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And you
that-
met Mary Howard before. Did you meet her on Next Gen or?
No, Mary Howard was my assistant director on MacGyver.
I thought so,
Oh,
yeah.
The first time she moved up to a first. She had been the second, and I was her first director as a first AD.
God, it's a small little village, Hollywood.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Big city, small village.
Yeah.
So you, and then some of your episodes for Deep Space Nine
Are some of the best
some of the best
episodes
hours ever. Yeah.
in the canon of that series.
Duet is so wonderful.
Duet is
I
one
worked
of my
with Harris.
favorites.
I did a
Little
Buffy
Green
with him. What
You
a
did.
great guy.
Great guy.
Classic, class act.
Yeah, he had a tough time on that because the amount of time for
That
makeup.
makeup, huh?
So he was, getting there at 4 a.m, putting on makeup, and then he had trouble remembering lines
Did he really?
because of that. Not the
surprised
first
to hear
couple of
that,
days,
actually.
but we would cue him then, and he would say the lines beautifully.
Right.
So you never knew when the picture when
Right.
it was cut together
Right.
there was any issue. But he was just so exhausted from the
Bet.
hours.
Those are long days.
But he did a great job. That's a great episode.
14, 15, 16-hour
Yeah.
days.
With
there was
that
no
kind of,
spring
it's 4
chicken,
hours
really.
makeup, 4 hours of makeup
Yeah.
on, and
You're there at 4:30 in the morning.
Just getting it off at the end of the day. is a
Yeah.
nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, the 1 or 2 times I had to do it was like, oh God.
It's
Just have to
awful.
back the truck up.
I had
to
a
do this
friend who
full-time.
I did a show called Magicians the last 5 years, but the last things I was doing, and one of the showrunners got hired to do the new Star Trek, the one with Anson Mount,
Strange New
Strange
Worlds.
New Worlds.
Yeah.
which is great. So before he started writing, he watched all the episodes of all the Star Treks, and he called me.
All of them.
Yeah, and he called me to say when he saw Duet to say how great it was.
Yeah, good for you. It was a particularly great episode.
Did you enjoy your time with Spelling Entertainment versus what you did then with Star Trek? They're very different,
Yeah.
more polar opposites of
Yeah, they are.
entertainment.
It was for me at Spelling. It was about Duke Vincent was Aaron's
Yes.
partner, and he's like a second father to me. So it was always like going home to be with him and work with them. And I knew all of those people, just as I knew everyone at Star Trek for 18 years. I knew all the people at Spelling for 24 years, and so I was going back and forth between 2 homes,
Right.
and that was a great feeling.
Did they have a sort of pool of crew and DPs that all did all the shows?
People came and went, but there was a lot of the same people all the time. Very much like at Star Trek.
Was Spelling familial? I mean, in terms of the
Yeah.
And how involved was Aaron in the day-to-day workings of the shows? Was he?
Every show was different. 90210, he was very involved,
Right.
minutely involved because Tori was in it.
Right.
Charmed, he sort of gave to Duke and I because he wasn't really a sci-fi guy. So Duke and I handled Charmed. But Aaron was a master at casting. And whenever we had pilots, we had always had a lot of pilots. He was very involved in all those, the casting of the pilots and obviously the creation of the pilots. But yeah, he was a very hands-on guy.
The one story I know, and you can maybe verify it or dispel it, was when he and his wife were building their golf house somewhere in Beverly Hills. Apparently they got quite far into the building and she went along to see how it was coming along and went up to the stairs to where the master bedroom was going to be, and she looked out of what was going to be the window and went, oh no, this is all wrong. And they had to tear it all down and start over. I don't know if that's true, but I've always heard that story.
I'm not sure that's true.
Okay.
I know that it got much bigger than Aaron had ever anticipated, but he sort of just let Candy do what she did. I have to say, it was a beautiful home. I mean, it was gigantic, but when you walk into it, it didn't feel like it was as 53,000 square feet. It had 53. It was. Aaron got a lot of grief because it was bigger than the White House by just a few feet.
Oh my God!
When that
Is that a thing?
No. But when that came out, he was very embarrassed. But it had a number of floors and like there was
Do you know
a
who
huge
owns it now? I
closet.
have no idea.
It's changed hands a couple of times. I don't know who owns it now, but it's a beautiful place.
So I've always wondered this, what it means to be a director of a pilot and the tone that you're responsible for and how you reach that by the time you're shooting.
Let's talk about Broken Bow, for instance.
I mean, not only that, and have you had other pilot episodes that you've done as a director for shows that have gone on that you've established the tone of that? And
Starting with Grizzly Adams.
did you really?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, God bless you. I want to hug you right now.
But there were others not nearly as successful as Broken Bow. I did some shows that I did, Bodies of Evidence and University Hospital, but those were short-lived compared to even our short-lived 4-year show.
Right.
The difference is when you're hired as an episodic director, you're there just to shoot essentially the showrunner's vision.
Right.
They've got a cast that's there and a look sort of that's
They
there.
don't want to put the hours in.
They want you to shoot their vision. They give you the script. You have a tone meeting. They tell you how each scene, what they intended in each scene, how they want it to be. They warn you about actors with English accents that you can't understand. They say, try to slow them down.
good at does them. No, British guy wouldn't say that.
And so you have some freedom, but it's really their show. And when you're hired to do the pilot, it's still their show, but you have much more input in terms of how the sets are going to be, how the style is going to be,
Pre-production, all of this.
all the pre-production. You're involved in all the casting, so you definitely have input into casting. Now, casting is a big ladder of approvals, but if somebody doesn't like somebody early on, that could be the end of it. Or if somebody's really pushing for somebody.
Can you push as the director in that pilot moment then for a cast member that perhaps studio doesn't like or
just some degree,
network
as long as
doesn't like?
as long as the executive producer agrees with you.
Right.
There's a point where Rick and Brandon and I would talk about somebody, and if all three of us liked somebody, then that was a good
chance.
Well, Billingsley tells this great story about his idea about squawking as flocks.
Oh, do you remember the squawking?
Do you remember this at all? and we didn't done the we done
He got all the way to the first day of shooting.
We done the table read, and Billingsley was like,
yeah, I was there at the Studio Network audition, and we were the first two cast. And I heard him through the double doors. And I'm like, what the fuck is he doing in there?
And then John tells this story on the first day of shooting. He does this thing and is like, cut the shit, John.
I think what he actually said was, are you fucking shitting me? And John goes, I'm not married to it.
I've heard he's told this story. Somebody told the story, and I don't remember it.
You don't?
No,
I was there because I hung around.
But it doesn't surprise me.
It was his first scene in sickbay. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Hilarious.
What's interesting is in preparation for this, I looked at the 5 hours that I did, the 2-hour pilot, and then one each of the last 3 shows. And I vividly remember 4 of the 5 hours, but the show from season 3 It could have been someone else directed.
Was it Damage?
For some reason, I didn't have a lot of memories about that one compared to the others. And the same
Because you
thing
did
happened
Mirror
to me.
Darkly, you did the Klingon one where Scott Judgment, who he gets out.
Yes, I love that.
In front
It
of
was a great
yeah, it's a
one.
good episode. He did nice. It's a courtroom drama, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Damage, and then our pilot.
Yeah.
And then the episode where were you before Marvin or after Marvin?
Before.
He has a bone to pick with you. Mirror Darkly.
I've got a story to tell you. If you've not heard this.
Now you're in the hot seat.
So, thank you for bringing this up.
Oh, sit back and relax.
So we get to the episodes of Mirror Darkly, and the entire time, like, I think this is just ridiculous. I come in, Jolene's wearing, her hair's different. She's got a crop top on.
I didn't notice.
And we walk in, and I don't know if it's the first episode or first scene of the episode, but it's the first one I did. And I walked
shower
in.
scene?
No, we're in engineering.
You're not going to complain about the shower scene.
No, never.
It was very attractive.
I will complain about one thing. The fact that we had to have sparkles in that gel and had to be dried with a dry towel after every take. By the time we were done, we were lobsters.
Oh.
Or I was.
Yeah, I only had to do it a couple of times.
A few times. Yeah.
Pirate story.
No, you say a pirate story.
So the pirate story, walk in, I don't really know what to do.
Pieces of meat.
I walk in, do the scene, and you're like, well, we need a lot more here. This is clearly an alternate universe, yada, yada, yada. And I said, what? So, like a pirate? And you go like, yeah, try that. We shoot the scene, you go cut, print, and I go, no, I was kidding. And you're like, no, it's great, we're moving on. And I was like, oh no.
Oh shit, now I'm a pirate.
For the next 3 weeks, I had to do hated every second of it.
Oh. I was going to ask how you guys liked playing mirror versions of yourself. How did? Well, you were.
I loved it. I mean, a big evil Reed was great, and yeah, a lot of fun. But it was a mixed blessing or mixed bag because right in the after you left us, and then we had to go back and do the second part of it. Was right when we got the phone call from Rick saying we were done.
Oh.
And then whoever was going to direct that episode, either they got wind of that and went, "Oh fuck that sinking ship," because they didn't show up.
Oh.
And Marvin stepped in, and it was a real in-house, at-home family feel. But obviously there was a cloud, and it was a weird one.
Yeah,
but, a lot of fun playing evil Reed.
It was more like smirky Reed.
Smirk. Well, there was some, I had some, So I mean, when I was.
And I was
torturing. It was like torturing someone.
I got torturing.
I don't remember. I just saw the episode and I don't remember. You didn't have that much to do in that episode.
No, I didn't.
Except the shower scene with.
Oh, but what you did,
Jolene,
darling, was absolutely.
But you know what's funny about this? When you're the director, something like that was so important to you because obviously you're the actor and you're getting the know. I don't remember a thing about that.
Sure.
But there's 1,000 decisions or questions every day that you deal with. But that happens all the time when. Something that I've said or done that to me was just something
in
passing has this lasting impact.
Yeah, because then I walked out. I walked out.
How many hours of therapy?
I walk out and I'm like, I've got to play this pirate for the next 3 weeks.
Jim, it's my favorite episode.
I'm gonna go back and look.
Oh,
What scene was it? What happened in the scene?
So Trip walks into engineering and he has a scene with DePaul and she's got the the halter top on and her hair's funny and it might have been mid episode, but it was the moment where this all circle this back is that we set the tone for my character. And
there's no going back.
There's no going back. You can't reel it back in.
There was a pirate one scene, and then it was just regular.
After you cut print, you can't ring it back in.
No, it's done.
But I've often wondered, specifically in Enterprise, you directed the pilot, and you're responsible for the tone that every director after that point has to find as they direct. And how did you do that? How did you determine that?
It was a huge.
yeah.
It was. I mean, it was just a massive task, wasn't it?
It was a big pilot.
Yeah.
You know, it's a combination of you're shooting the script, and the script, besides the plot points and the universe that's created there, it's the characters. So it's the combination of the script and then the actors that you have, and you know, rehearse it and finding it. And everybody was and everybody was cast so well that there wasn't a lot of searching that we had to do in terms of who your characters were, and so part of the style that I did was, you know, it was a cramped sort of feeling, and there was a lot of tight stuff. The camera moved a lot. That evolved and continued to evolve as the show went on.
They made sure they had that dolly crane thing.
That was
didn't
part.
They,
We designed that into the pilot. Yeah.
What's that called again? I'm not a.
Well, it's. I don't even know.
Yeah, it's like a dolly crane that could
But
go.
it's a conscious
go in
act
and out
that you're moving the scene, the show, with an energy that's specific to how you've determined how you're going to do that.
When I read a script, I see it. I can see the movie, and so the way I prepare. And if you guys remember, when I would come in, I'd have a shot list, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do. We'd rehearse it, and if I would make changes if it was, you know, you guys needed changes or something. But I've seen the movie in my head. I break it down. I list out all the shots, and so now I'm just going to recapture that when we're on the stage to shoot it. So I consciously designed all those camera moves ahead of time, knowing that I wanted the camera to be as much a part of a character as everything else.
How does Marvin react to something like that?
He loved it.
He did. He didn't mind
he
it.
loved it.
He didn't mind it.
We had a lot of.
Did you collaborate a lot to just come with that?
We talked about every scene, and
because I know he likes to be involved and you know, creative. Yep. He didn't like. There were other directors that came in that didn't ask him a question. And all of a sudden, it would take Billy Keith's 5 hours to set up 2 lights.
Out would come the newspaper. The LA Times would come out.
No kidding. The glasses would go on, and the newspaper would come out.
He's a great guy.
He's lovely.
And I loved him, and I actually worked with him. I did an Orville. I did episode number 2 of Orville, the Seth MacFarlane show.
Right.
And so I came in to set that up with Marvin, and that was great fun.
Was that early on in Orville's? Was that? Did you say episode 1 or 2?
Episode 1. The pilot was
Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau, but I did the first episode after.
I thought the tone was
that show figured out its voice after a couple of seasons.
Yeah,
it was meant to be initially, I think, sort of a fun Seth MacFarlane version,
spoofy version, and an homage to Star Trek.
Yeah, but then it got serious.
It was an odd juxtaposition. Seth is really a great guy. Very talented.
Yes, absolutely.
But I'm not sure the audience was ready for the juxtaposition of you know, that there was a slightly goofy humor with, you know, a very expensive sci-fi show.
Yeah.
That people weren't really quite ready for, I don't think, at first.
The one joke that worked in the pilot for me, and I'll shut up after this, they have Porthos in it, and he what does he do in the background? He either farts or takes a pee or something. Right. And it was funny as well. Yeah. And then they kind of went, did you see the dog do that? And they started to bang it on, and I was like, oh no. Anyway, there's my critique of that.
But they figured that show out.
They did. Yeah, they got Brannon in, and they made it a sci-fi show.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, he was there from the start.
Was he there from the get-go? I didn't know.
And unlike a lot of shows I've worked on, when I started, I did episode 2 of 13, I think, and they had all 13 scripts. So I actually was able to read the entire season before.
See where he fit in.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It was actually great. It's very unusual that could ever happen.
Right.
But it was really a big advantage.
How did you feel our pilot show turned out then? Pretty good, huh?
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my great moments of my life was sitting in the theater at Paramount
on the opening.
We all screened it, and my
beautiful.
wife and my one daughter Katie was there. Sarah was in New York at NYU. And watching it from the center of the theater, it's a 2-hour movie. It was great. It was a highlight of my life.
Yeah, it meant to be on the big screen.
Yeah.
Especially the pilot. Yeah.
They spent a lot of money on that. Was it like
$12 million, which was a lot of money in those days. 32-day schedule.
We got a big number straight after. It looked like it was going to be a huge hit, our show, and then it just went back to 2.83 million within weeks, didn't it? Do you have a theory about that? Do you have an idea of where the drop-off came?
I think the show didn't live up to the expectation of it being a different show. It just became another Star Trek show.
Yeah.
Instead of taking the whole idea of a prequel and new characters and doing something different.
I hear that.
It just felt, I think, very familiar to the audience.
They did.
I also think that our world changed so radically with 9/11 and it changed our show. that maybe the initial goal for Enterprise, it changed when, you know, everything changed and our show changed, and we had the Zindi, and we had, you know, a season 3 that was a serial arc for a whole season, which had been done.
It was in response to 24's success too, the one arc, you know, episode.
Well, also, it was
were-
on UPN, which is not where I would
Wasn't it?
want my
Didn't
show to
help.
be.
No,
Yeah.
there was a lot of politics involved in that last year too. So yeah,
Was there?
Yeah.
And we lost
Were you aware
Karen
of that? Were you
Kluggage.
coming
Afterwards, I heard
right
about
after the fact?
Yeah,
You're
'cause
still
then-
good mates with Rick, aren't you?
it. Yeah,
Yeah, God bless him.
Rick's a great guy.
Yeah.
Rick is the reason I was, you know, for some reason he liked what I did that first season, that first episode. I because I'm so prepared, I shot much more coverage than the early directors did because I could move so fast. I said,
Right.
cut print over here, cut
must
print
have
over.
loved
You know
that.
how fast I
Well,
work.
I can speak for that.
Yes, you can.
Cut and print. Oh, nuts.
But as a result, I was able to deliver as a director much more coverage to the producers, and Rick loved that.
Yeah.
He loved having a lot of film and a lot of choices, and so
Some directors purposely don't deliver a lot of cut. They
Which
want,
is stupid.
They want them stuck with what because they want it the way they see it. And
which is not right. You're not there to do
right,
that.
That's not your job.
You know, when you
Right.
get your own show, you go do that.
Right,
When
right.
Otherwise, you're there to make your producer happy, and
Yeah.
that's your job.
So the other double banger you did, which was introducing Worf to the Deep Space Nine cast, that was a two banger, wasn't it? And
Two-hour.
you know, and now at the same time you were in contention and consideration to do First Contact, the big
Yes.
movie. Tell us that little-
Rick had sent me the script when it was first out, and I flipped because it was so good. And
It's a heavy fucking episode. When I watched it recently, it's another heavy Klingons ep.
Yeah,
A lot of fight scenes,
a lot of fight
which
scenes.
you're very good at.
I did enjoy doing that. And I
Yeah.
do enjoy Klingons. They're
Right.
really such an interesting breed. But while I was doing that episode, Rick had sent me the script for First Contact and said, I'd like you to direct this. And I had then had to go, and we had a meeting at Paramount with Sherry Lansing,
Sherry Lansing was the
and
lady,
did the
yeah.
whole pitch about trying to do it. Patrick had director approval. And
Oh, did he?
He didn't know me that well. I'd only worked with him twice,
Yeah.
10 years before,
Fleetingly.
and had barely had any scenes with him.
Right.
So we had no relationship.
But he knew Jonathan.
And Jonathan had been directing and doing well, and so it came down to a choice, and Patrick chose Jonathan, who did a great job.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You know, it's a great movie.
Must have been it's a gut punch, isn't it? It's like being an actor and not getting the job.
Well, yeah, because I know I got the call from Sherry Lansing, who said, "Don't worry, there'll be another chance." But they always say stuff like that, and I
And
knew,
they gave it to
and I
Stuart
knew-
Baird.
They always say
I knew it wouldn't be, but it was fine. It was
A fine movie.
Jeez, Tom.
I'm telling it all here today.
but it wasn't meant to be, so that was fine, and it all worked out. So.
Well, The Way of the Warrior is a great episode. And,
Yeah, and that was while doing that is when I knew I'd be leaving to go to Spelling. That was the last
right.
two episodes I did, I think, for Deep Space Nine. Spelling, after this long-term relationship, Duke had wanted to throttle back, so he wanted me to come in and be executive vice president and sort of take over production with him, for him. So I had been in front of the camera as a director and a producer and a writer, but I'd never been in a studio environment. So I said, okay, let's try that. So for 6 years, I was executive vice president, and I was giving the notes instead of getting the notes, which is always a nice thing. But I worked on 90210 and Melrose Place and Seventh Heaven and Charmed.
Big hits, man.
all
You
of
directed,
it, all of it.
directed as well.
I directed Charmed. I didn't direct. I directed the second version of 90210, not the first.
Did they behave themselves when you came on to direct?
Yes.
They did.
Yes.
They had to. And they knew
Yeah.
their place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
But for other directors, I'm talking about Charmed now.
Yeah,
Early on in Charmed,
They wouldn't do off-camera work, apparally, for other guest stars.
that
Shit like
sometimes they would leave and have stand-ins to give the off-camera. And Shannon was directing at the end, and
Right.
she'd been around it her whole life, and she understood, as did Alyssa. You know what would be in a rehearsal. You do a rehearsal, and she'd know how much coverage would be necessary. So if the director had her move around too much, she'd say, "I'm not moving. I'm going to stay here. You're going to do with the master in a couple of shots and get me out of here. I've got a date later on." Or
yeah,
something.
right.
And with certain directors, they would have
They would
to
get away
fold
with
to
it.
her. There were other people that she would work with, and she couldn't really do that too.
All right.
but when they had their chance, and it wasn't just her. I mean, it's other actors I've worked with on other shows have done that kind of thing. But
some of the stories are just
but I don't like. I didn't
legendary.
like when they wouldn't be there for off camera. That's just not right.
It's just, as an actor, it's just, because God knows, Scott would literally cram himself in, on one foot to get one eye to you in any scene. He would never
Having
leave.
not slept all night.
Having not slept all night because his
been
son was
there
up
all day
you know,
long.
I know. It was a mensch.
Yeah, it's odd because it's ultimately it's supposed to be a weird
collaborative
family.
Yeah, really.
And when that's not allowed, that's got to be
draining,
frustrating, and draining.
Yeah, it's funny. And on a lot of shows I've worked on, the first year, everyone is all so close. Actors will come to the set to watch their fellow actors work on scenes they're not in part of. And then less of that by
season
the end
3,
of the
season 4.
3, fuck them.
I don't think we ever got to that phase with our cast, really.
No, none of the Star Trek cast had that. They were all, in fact, surprisingly, they were all great.
It could be that because that crew had mostly been together for, certainly with our show, for 18 years and change, there was a hardcore group of them that, acting up in front of them, you just feel like a dick, really.
Right.
How dare you? This is as much their show as it is yours. And I was always conscious of that.
And the tone is usually set. I mean, Scott set a great tone.
Yeah, he sure did.
And it just really starts with him. If he's not going to act out, I'm not going to act out.
Right. Not only not act out, he would help with moving lighting, and Billy's like, you can't do that union-wise, and you're like, come on, it's late.
Yeah.
I learned everything about how to operate on a set professionally from Scott.
Yeah, no kidding.
He'd
shake the hand of everybody, any new face,
every night.
Any extra that came on, background artist, he'd be the first to take a step forward and go, I'm Scott, welcome
For
to
me,
the
as
show.
a director, the biggest thing is either not leaving the set or coming out of your room when they call you. I've been on a lot of sets where they say, give them 5-minute notice, and then they won't come out till the camera's ready. And then the camera's ready, and then it's 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes before the drive. There's nothing worse. Nothing worse.
It's so, I just don't know, teeth pulling.
Do you have a favorite show? Be it Deep Space Nine or
of the Star Trek?
Gen, of your directing work?
Or in general.
Because your work in Deep Space Nine was really, really great.
Yeah, Little Green Men.
Little Green Men is such a good episode.
What was fun for me about Little Green Men is I directed a movie called Hangar 18.
Yes, which was a very similar storyline.
Very similar storyline.
Mostly the same, yeah.
So when I got this, I said,
I've done this.
I got this one. It's in my wheelhouse.
More money.
and I think Jerry was my AD on that. Jerry was involved in the first one, too, which was funny. The Enterprise pilot, because I had such a hands-on part of doing the pilot, has always been one of my favorite Star Trek experiences. But I've loved all the shows for different reasons.
Right.
It's very hard to pick a favorite. While you're doing something, it feels like this is your favorite. Then you do something else, and it feels like your favorite. So I always try to find the best of every experience I'm in. So I have almost every job I've had, good vibes coming out of it.
You're quite a no-nonsense director. I remember you. I'll be honest with you, dude. I mean, he wasn't giving any. There was not to say there was no love in the pilot, but there wasn't much of it. You're quite. Is that what is that? Is that just your style, or do you like to keep a control of a set that way, or?
My feeling is.
I can imagine the charm girls like, Uncle Jim's here. No fucking around today.
Yeah, there was some of that. I'm in a hurry. I want to get as many shots as I can in the 12 hours that we've got. And I know that if I sit around and chat and laugh and joke and stuff, that's something I'm not getting, or a piece of coverage I'm not going to get. And I feel like if you get a crew moving like that, it's going to just keep moving like that and be happy. If they stop, it's really hard to get them started again.
Sure.
Yeah. And then you get a sense of being behind, and you start dropping things. So my feeling is, if you can set a tone and keep it moving.
It was all business. I remember that. Occasionally you'd throw out a nicely done, but it was I was
probably under my breath a lot. All the time, you just never heard.
Nicely done, not you, Dom.
3 of you four actors
Well done,
did a
Joe.
great
Lovely job.
Right. Good scene, Dom. Can I talk to you?
Just a couple of.
Were you like that straight out of college, or was it just your experiences that made you kind of adapt to that way of working?
I was probably leaning in that direction right out of college.
Yeah.
I know I was always a very organized director. So I think I started that way and just got worse.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I
I'm
know
sure the
what I
more
want.
the more professional one becomes, as it were, in terms of just being professional. It's.
But also it depends on the actors.
do you
I did-
find that some must
there are
need
some actors that need
patting down.
their process is completely different.
Yeah.
Where instead of saying, "Why don't you start here and walk over here and do this," there are ones you need to talk about the whole thing ahead of time. And there's a few shows I've done where I know that it's going to be, and I do that. In fact, sometimes I'll pre-rehearse to get that done offset, so we don't take time away from lighting, because it's all about, when you're on the stage, you shoot 12 hours a day, but 9 hours of it is lighting.
Yeah.
Where you don't get to do anything. So I always try to block the scene as quickly as possible and get off stage so that they can light, and then either rehearse someplace else or if we have to talk about it. But some actors need more than that, and then you have to give it to them.
And you suss that out
Yeah.
sort of immediately.
They let it
They
be
let you
known.
know. Yeah.
Can we talk?
Moving on.
You're off.
Oh, I shut my mouth and did the damn thing, but I didn't like doing the damn thing.
Well, you were great, and people still talk about it. Did it get easier?
Playing the pirate?
Well, see, you called it a pirate. Everyone else said it was the best performance in 4 years.
Did it get easier? What it got easier about it was that I had to sell in and buy into that I was doing it. And that you can do that with anything. I mean, like you're playing Grendel. Well, here's how Grendel sounds based on how your director says. So you may not agree with that, or you may have felt like you lost an opportunity to do something. But then you set something, you do it, and then you find how you navigate that role within those parameters. So yeah, I began to appreciate it more, but I still kept thinking, God damn it, if he had not said cut Trent, we might have been able to sort
And
something.
did you ever see it?
Only the time it's ever aired. The first time. I've never seen it
And
since.
what did you think when you saw it?
Thought it was terrible.
And the second
Well, from a
episode,
personal
you had
point
to
of
do the
view.
same.
Yeah,
that was pretty
you
damn
hated
good.
being a pirate.
Here's the other thing about this. I had played this character, Trip, who was so close to who I am as a person. And then I was asked to do something that was so far away from what I thought he was. So that's, I guess, a great acting challenge is how you find the truth in that scenario, which isn't what you're expecting. So yeah.
This is the talking he would have liked on the day.
But you didn't come in with any ideas of your own.
No, I had no idea what to do. I mean, I literally got on set and saw the gummy bear buttons and the whole, a throwback version of the whole thing. I had no idea what to do. And then I did ultimately. It's an acting challenge. As an actor, that's what you do. Like when somebody says to you, well, now you're doing it this way. Right. Find out how this way is the truth. And so yeah, ultimately I did find I think I'd have probably also gotten maybe a little bit lazy in I don't trip.
What? Connor?
Say it ain't so.
Wait a minute. Lazy? Is it nap time? But yeah, it was an opportunity to sort of expand sort of the notion of what I thought Trip was like. So yeah, at the end of it, I think I did not like my own version of it,
Right.
My performance of it. So what other people think of it, I don't know. But
I will say this, and you know this to be true from working with me. If I didn't like the pirate, I would have said something.
oh god, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the fact
wouldn't have
is,
been shy,
what you did pleased me enough so we didn't keep working on it. If
Right.
you had fucked that up, we would have still worked on it more.
Exactly.
So your perfection is really the problem.
Oh, wow.
I think that's
See what he did there?
Yeah.
That's going to be my
That
new
was
T-shirt.
masterful.
Your perfectionism is your problem.
This is how a director works.
Oh, well played. director.
Actors are so fucking easy.
Now he wants to play a pirate again.
Did I like it? I kind of liked it after a while.
We talked about it. No, I wish I could do it more.
Retrospect.
I want to talk about your books.
Yeah.
You began writing when were you first published?
The first published was the one in 2012, Dead and Not So Buried, which
That was right after we had the Blu-ray thingy.
Yeah.
You just said you just got it out.
Yeah, I had.
Where do people find them, by the way, so that they can...
My website is jameslconway.com, and there's a number of links in there, photography, movies, and books.
Very
And
good.
in the books, there's links to buy them.
And you do follow a private detective. It's the one character.
It's three different.
Three
It's
different
three
PIs,
standalones. They're called. So the first one is a PI. The second one is Two Women on the Run.
In Cold Blonde.
That's the third one.
That's the third
second
one.
one is Sexy Babe.
Sexy Babe.
And the third one is In Cold Blonde, which is about a man-woman detective pair, LAPD.
Right.
And they're all different stories, but they're all set in Hollywood, and they're all funny, sexy, thriller, violent. They're fun.
I should give one a spin. I haven't. I don't know why I haven't, but I'm just, funny enough, I'm just reading a private detective story about a dog called Chet and his private detective owner. Do you know these stories?
Which one? What's the?
Something. It's a Woof Life, or I don't know. There's
I don't
four of them.
I don't know that.
What titles?
They're quite actually. It's all told from the dog's perspective.
It's a cool idea.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And sort of Virginia Woolf esque about Edith Wharton. She told the story about from the bedside of her cocker spaniel. That was rather serious, but this is lovely actually, told from the dog's perspective.
Do you like dogs?
Yeah, I've never owned one, but I've lived with people who have had them. Let's put it that way.
So yeah, I'd always been an avid reader, and I'd written that first book long before, and I'd written scores and scores of scripts. So writing a book was something that I always wanted to do. And the book, the original title was The Kidnap of Marilyn Monroe, but the plot is someone breaks into Marilyn Monroe's crypt and kidnaps the body, the dead body, the dead corpse, and holds it for hostage. So that's the plot of the book. And it sort of came to me when I said, what if somebody kidnapped Marilyn Monroe's body? But we had to, that's a very litigious estate.
Yeah.
So we changed, I fictionalized that. And
Who is
changed.
who is the owner of that estate now? Then who's left after? I don't even
Me.
know.
Mark Cartier.
I don't know what the relative thing is, but you can imagine how much money it's worth.
Did you see? Is it Ian Dominic, the Australian director's movie last year, Marilyn? Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
I've seen most of the things.
Yeah, it's
from
quite good. I mean, it got a lot of shtick. I know.
The one with Anna de
She's
Armas.
great.
Yes. She was great, but it was a disgusting movie.
It's
It was
not
just
it
so
is-
down and negative.
It is not. It's not an easy look, but some
she
of the
was great.
filmmaking was pretty good, and she
Yeah.
was particularly
very stylish.
terrific. Yeah.
What's the process like of writing a book for you?
Getting up, I did it while I was still working at Spelling, and so I just get up early. I get up at 5:30 anyway, and I would spend an hour and a half or 2 hours every morning working on just writing, which is how when I was running shows, I would do the same thing. I'd get up early to write on
Right.
weekends.
And
And
have
it
breakfast
became
before you start, or after the fact, then.
eat first,
Eat
coffee
first,
and
yeah.
breakfast. But I still get up early, but now I get up early and I generally work out instead of write. But it just becomes part of what you do when you do it every day.
Yeah.
It's just part of who you are,
Right.
and that's really what.
What does your
the
workout
discipline.
include? What do you?
I do a number of stretches, and then I do bands, and then I play tennis 3 times a week, or I play golf, or I do the treadmill, or I walk.
God bless.
So
Yeah.
I
I always
try to be
remember
active.
playing around with Jim. We used to play quite a bit back in the day, didn't we? And I think you took an errant shot off one tee box, and you were like, no, Jim, and he was like, God. And Tiger Woods was at the height of his, and I know his name came up, and Jim turned around and went, well, Tiger couldn't direct an 8-page day with a 4-page fucking fight scene, so there's that. Never forgot that.
very
How long
funny.
does it take you to complete a novel? It's
Quite a
mightily
while,
impressive.
three or 4 months.
Yeah.
And I did the first 3. The first one was traditionally published. The next two were self-published. The middle one, Sexy Babe, was the most successful. The third one, which is probably my favorite, was just sort of more about it. Never really sold that much. And that sort of took the wind out of my sails.
Right.
Because there's so much effort goes into it, and then when you don't get the return. And I had, written 3, so I sort of fulfilled that obsession
Did you
in my life.
self-publish, as it were, or did you have a house behind you helping?
I had published it the first time, but the second 2 were through Amazon.
Right,
And
right.
I made a lot more money that way.
Right. I was going to say, you got to promote these things.
Unless
aren't
you're
they?
a big name writer, it's
Right.
very hard. Even the big name writers have to promote themselves these days. It's very easy to
kidding.
get mixed. So I did it for myself first, and that was great. People buying it and reading it was the bonus.
Yeah.
So that was good. And then the kids' books I started because I had 2 grandsons, and during the pandemic I did all these very funny images using rubber ducks. In fact, I did a couple things where I took a rubber duck and I put him into all of these famous paintings. And there's a rubber duck added to it, as if he was always there
Right.
from the beginning. And it was like
Did the Mona Lisa figure?
Yes, the Mona Lisa has one in her lap, and you would never know it wasn't painted in, because being a photographer, I'm also an expert at Photoshop, and so I can blend, things into that you never
Right.
know they weren't there. So
Whistler's mother, little duck.
there is exactly there
Really?
is. Yes, I did it. Whistler's mother.
The girl with the rubber duck earring.
I did her too. Yes, I did do that one. So I did a little book, which because of copyright and stuff, I never really published. It was just for me. But I did this all during the pandemic because it was something to do, keep me busy. And that got me doing the rubber ducks. And then I decided to do the ones for the kids. And I've done 4 now. And they sell sporadically.
How old are
It's
the grandchildren? now?
6 and 3.
Wow. Lovely ages.
Yeah.
Say 2 different
2 boys.
Two boys, both daughters.
Same daughter,
Same daughter.
Sarah. Yeah.
Right.
Do you have your friends or family read your books before you publish them?
I did have some friends read them and then
Yeah.
also proofread them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how proofreading is a funny thing because you can read it 50 times and not see the same
Yeah,
mistakes
sure.
all the time, and
Right.
then you give it to a proofreader who will get 85% of them, but not all of them.
Right.
So it takes a long time to get it completely proofed.
Cleaned out.
Right.
I
I
had
think AI could do a better job now than we do.
Oh, there you go.
Oh yeah.
Do you
This
think?
is just basic spelling
definitely.
stuff and punctuation stuff.
Spelling and
You mean as
punctuation.
an editor or as a reader of your?
I think there must be a way to have it proofread for spelling and for punctuation. I bet you.
Right.
there's a
Yeah,
thing.
it'll also suggest how to restructure it to be more grammatically correct given your writing
But
style.
I played around with AI. I like Mid-Journey and doing images and visual. That's fun to do. I think as a photographer and as an artist, you have to embrace it. You can't disparage it because it's the future. So how do I use it in what I do? But I did use ChatGPT, and I just to find out, I said, write a biography of James Conway. And it was probably only 80% accurate. There's a lot of stuff in there that was wrong movie, wrong dates, wrong this, wrong that.
Wow.
And then I had him do Rebecca, my wife, as an actress. Same thing. There was wrong movies, wrong dates, wrong this, some right. So it's only as good as the information it gives you, but it's not. There's no guarantee that it's correct.
Right.
So you really have to go through then and make sure what it's telling you is what is true. If you're doing any kind of report or something, I would hate to be a student and have to turn something in, not assuming it was all true and knowing that now that it's not.
I will probably go to my grave never having used it.
I don't know. I mean, Terry Metalis was here, and he
Too
was
late,
talking about been done. Terry Metalis was here, and he was talking. We were talking about what AI means to our industry, and he said that he'd done. He did a Chat GPT thing, a script, and he gave it the information, and it came back, and he was like, it was a pretty good first pass.
Yeah, John Delancey did it too, didn't he? He told us when we were, because we were in Germany. Him and his son said write a Star Trek script, and it wasn't bloody bad.
Really?
Yeah,
Right.
man.
What's your take on how
There
the
was no
future
read.
of that lives in our industry?
I think in terms of recycling old ideas, because that's all it can do, it's gonna that's the problem. New things are what get people's attention. It could never have created Succession. It could never have created something that didn't exist before. It might be able to give you a version of what a Succession script might look like now.
Yeah.
But the original creation, the original casting, the original things that make what we do great, it can't ever do, because all it's doing is regurgitating old stuff.
Right.
So
just
it's
watched
amazing. It's
Succession
going
for
to
the
keep getting
second
better
time.
and better. It's so good.
It's genius.
Genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's going to have its place. It's going to be sort of like a writer's room by yourself where you can sit there and bounce ideas off it. I had an idea for another book, and I was sort of stuck for a little plot thing. So I said, give me some ideas about this, that, or the other. It came back with like 5 or 6 ideas, all of which I'd thought of.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, one of these days it's going to come back with something I hadn't thought of. So it's worth continuing to play with.
Yeah.
So it's got uses.
How quickly does it come back to you? Like
in seconds.
Really?
Yeah.
You say, I'm writing a novel about X, Y, and Z. What questions should I ask you to help me get more plot things? And they will then give you questions, and it says, who are the characters? What's the theme? What all this information about the character. So you feed all that in, and then it spits out a bunch of stuff.
Can you even give it like in the style of?
Yeah. Really?
Oh yeah. It's terrifying.
Certainly, Mid-Journey works that way.
Why do you think the studios were holding out so, it's particularly in the writer's strike, so ardently for this technology that isn't, they think it's going to be good enough one day?
Well, no, exactly. Nobody quite knows. It's like when streaming started.
Yeah.
It was, we got crappy residuals because everybody said, it's nothing. But let's wait to see if it really turns into anything. Well, it certainly did.
It sure did.
And I think with AI, because nobody quite knows where it's going to go and how powerful it's going to become, and there's still some copyright things that have to be solved. I mean, everything it knows from work that's been published by other people.
Is true.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I've been saying. It's like our industry will sort of set the tone for how AI is dealt with in other industries because it's basically a plagiarization machine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's going to police that, as it were?
Well, I sell stock footage for my photography on Adobe, and I got a credit for. They now have a Firefox, which is an AI generated image creation for Adobe, and for images that they've used to get ideas from or get images from, they gave me some money. So they're doing it for all the different people who have got stock footage that are getting some fee. So that's their attempt at least
monitoring and
monetizing the people that are getting the stuff.
Good.
But the other people don't, Mid-Journey and stuff, they just go from the internet. But it's, you can say, which I did. I live in Park City, and I wanted to get a big picture of Park City for my living room. So I put in Main Street, Park City, winter, night, in the style of Edward Hopper, in the style of Norman Rockwell, and a bunch of different artists. And I got a number of completely the same idea, but like that. And then I actually took one, did some Photoshop on it, and I've got one that I'm actually hanging up in my home. And it was really fun to create, but you can, and it does look the style of the artist you say.
Who did you pick in the end? Well, that sounds like, is it a big piece? Is it like full?
Yeah, it's like,
grand. And you just take that along to a photo place and they reproduce and.
Yeah, I just had on Photoshop I made a big image of it. I did some work and then I sent it to my printer and he printed up a big thing and we got it framed.
So you've not retired. I don't think any artists actually retire.
I have retired as a director and a producer and a writer for our business, but I haven't retired. I'm always busy doing art, whether it's photography or digital art.
You still write?
I haven't been, but I've been toying with an idea of a book that I started a long time ago that I think I might go back to. It's
we got a lot of fan questions specifically about your writing, and a bunch of them, and I don't want to spoil anyone's fan question, but a bunch of them were about have you ever entertained the idea of writing a Star Trek book?
No, because I would always think it would be fun to do a murder mystery set in Star Trek.
That would be awesome.
That kind of thing. I'm not sure that legally you can without having the make it Galaxy Quest or change the name so much. It'd be only fun if you could do it where it is Star Trek. But I have thought about that, and I thought about doing one with Charmed, and that's sort of a built-in audience that would like that kind of story. So it's something I've thought about.
It's time for some fan questions with James L. Conway. Are you ready?
Yay!
Yay!
Fan questions.
All right. First question. Jan Rennie from Patreon asks, as an author who has directed episodes of various Star Trek series, if you were asked to write a Star Trek novel, which cast would you choose and what storyline would you develop?
Read Untold.
Trip's not dead.
Moving on.
Yeah.
selfishly, I would go with the most popular cast in terms of ratings, which was TNG, just because you want the biggest audience.
Yeah.
But guest stars from all the
Snore.
others would have to come in and be part of it.
I read you say that there was no other cast that had pop factor.
But it would probably be something set in Next Generation would be fun. And then guest stars from all the other people would be
What do you
fun.
think? What do you think was the enduring success of that cast and that those stories, and why are they still the jewel in
I
the
think a
crown?
number of things. One was it was the first Star Trek, so all of the characters were the first. It was Data and Worf and Picard, and it was the first time all of those things had happened. They were all really well cast, and the show kept getting more popular until it went off the air,
Right.
which is so unusual.
And they got the movie mantle, and
they started doing all of the movies, so it just became bigger than just a television show, and it launched all the other shows.
I mean, I've heard Patrick. He was just on the Graham Norton show that we were talking about, and he apparently Gene did not want it. According to Patrick, on the sofa on Graham Norton, and he apparently for the first however long Gene lived into that series, he'd be staring at Patrick from behind Video Village, going, like, how did we get this bald man?
But who did we have on the show who had seen? Who was that? Who had seen Patrick do a thing? It was Armin. He had seen Patrick do a show at UCLA.
Yes, because he
and
came
said-
over, doing Shakespeare,
and said, "Yes,
teaching it to sort of
he was
class
doing a class at UCLA."
Yeah.
And Armin, I don't know what his connection was, but it was to
I
someone.
think Gates had seen him too, hadn't she? Am I making that bit up?
No, I don't think you're. I'm not sure who it was, but someone had an opportunity to say to someone, "I think I found your captain."
That was. You're right.
Yeah.
When they were casting that pilot, it wasn't like this was going to be a great job. It was a syndicated show. It wasn't even on a
It's
network.
true. Yeah.
So who knew if it was going to survive? And it wasn't, they weren't going for stars. They're going for pretty much unknown actors. And it was difficult to cast something like
Had
that.
any other show syndicated itself like that?
Not like that. That was Paramount sort of did it themselves. They started it off.
And at the time, you had LeVar.
He was the big hit.
He was the biggest.
And Will.
And Will Wheaton.
Yeah.
And
he was
beyond
coming
that,
off of
Stand By Me.
Stand By Me, right? Yeah.
But beyond that, the rest of the cast was.
And they put LeVar behind a back.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? The biggest star.
I know.
Yeah.
Sort of hiding.
Weird.
And the fact that he took it.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
Yeah.
Would like to say to our audience real quick that we recognize that Jim just said that TNG was the first. We know the original series was the first, so please don't blow up our
Oh,
comments.
thank you. Thank you very much. I meant of the
Yeah.
ones
Of-
I
after
directed.
the fact.
Yes, he was talking about
Of
the
Jim's
ones
work.
he was a part of. Yes.
The the original series, yes, of course. In fact, the director of the pilot of the original series pilot, Bob Butler, just died.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
He
Sad.
just died a few days ago.
90 something. He
Yes,
must have
he
been.
was in his 90s.
God bless.
Wow.
Yeah.
He worked for us at Spelling a number of times.
Did he?
Pilots, yeah,
Right.
in his 70s or 80s.
God bless.
Yeah, he's a great director. Anyway, so it would be a lot of fun to actually, at a convention. I thought about doing it, at a convention. There's a murder, and everyone. Then you can mix everybody
should write it.
together.
That's a great story.
Oh my God, Jim, you should write
The
that.
conventions.
And
the
conventions
convention
would be great.
murder.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right. Or on the ship.
Yeah.
You do when you guys are on your cruise and somebody.
You should absolutely write this.
We do an annual live event. In fact, there's one coming up.
We could kill one of
next
these
spring.
people, right?
Yeah?
Kill one
Well,
of
I'm
them.
dead.
We could do it live.
Let's kill the pirate.
There we go.
Let's kill the pirate. Again. Let's kill the pirate.
Trip's not dead again.
I like it.
I like it.
You've got Rubber Duck Meets the Farm. You've got the blonde and then let's kill the pirate.
There you go.
God, you love Hollywood, don't you?
I'm serious. That would be a very good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun. I'll think about it.
All right, next question. Micho and Miriam at Quark His Latinum Gold Pressed from Patreon asks, what's your best non-Trek related work?
I've done a lot of shows I really love. There's a show called The Magicians that was on for 5 seasons.
Oh,
on,
yeah.
on
TNT, right?
no, Sci-Fi and Netflix. I love that show. That's the last thing I did before I retired.
Oh.
I did that for 5 seasons, just a few episodes a year.
Was
But
it
it
about
was-
magicians, I think?
It was like a sexy, edgy Harry Potter. It was a school of magic for people in the early 20s, and then they left school and went on with their lives as the years went on. And it was really a good show. It's based on 3 novels by Lev Grossman called The Magicians, which I highly
He's a
recommend.
great writer.
Yeah, and this was a great series. It's a really great cast, wonderful scripts, great crew.
I don't know. I missed them.
Check it out. You can see it on Netflix, I think. With
Okay.
The Magicians, really, really good.
All right, great. Next question from Tim Votopka. Hey, Tim.
We also have to
Hey,
throw in
Tim.
Charm because they did Charm for
Oh, yeah.
8 years, and of course I love Charm.
Tim asks, whose idea was it to have Trip bump the shuttle pod into the Enterprise? Was there ever an insurance claim filed?
Actually, it wasn't in the script. The actor just made a mistake. No. It was in the script. So
Yeah.
It was one
Rick
of
and
my
Brandon's idea.
scenes in my audition for the show.
It was.
Really?
You didn't show enough awe.
I've told this story a lot. So I had probably the most auditions to get Trip, and in the network test, I went.
I went in
everything-
for a couple of them.
You had 2, and
No, for Trip.
and in the scene where Archer and Trip are in the shuttle pod and Trip bumps into it, and they see it for the first time. Apparently, I didn't show enough awe. And that was the note I got
Oh,
when I
that
left
finally
the
makes
test.
sense to me.
And
Knowing that
I
that's
come
the same-
away
and they
daily.
didn't cast me. And they had, you have what was it, 5 or 7 business days to make a decision per SAG,
Contract, yeah.
and they didn't. They waited a good 8 or 9 to make the decision. And I said to them, because I looked at the breakdowns and I saw no one was coming back in, and I said, "Can I come back in?
Is it the awe?
I'll show them all of them." And they were like, "They don't want to see you again." But it was that scene that was the penultimate, the crux
looking
of
at the
yeah.
ship.
It was like
Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting.
not the scene with DePaul, which we did the whole thing of the pilot. In the shower scene.
Right.
What's it
Decon
like?
scene.
Decon scene.
What's it like auditioning actors in those situations, Jim? I mean, do you see it straight away that that's the girl, the guy?
90% of the time, yeah.
You
Yeah,
do.
they
It's
walk
never,
in.
it's never the quality of the actor. It's what you imagine from reading the script.
Right.
And then it's an actor
And then
that
having the
comes
actor
in
come in and reproduce that.
and just fits it. And there's other times this is quite common where you're trying to cast a role and every time somebody reads it, the scene is terrible. The lines are awful, and you think
And then
it's something wrong with the script. And the right person comes in,
Yeah,
and it suddenly
crushes it.
sings, and it's fantastic,
Sales.
Yeah.
and it works.
Yeah.
So it's really just, and having been married to an actor, I know what it's like to be audition and not get it. And you think, you come back thinking, I really did a great job. I think I'm going to get it. Or I really sucked at that. And she doesn't get the one she thought she did. And she gets the one she thought she
That's
bombed.
often been the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
One that you
But
think,
it's just
I'll never
so
think
much
about that again.
is the right person at the right time for the right role.
Yeah.
I often talk about, look at the show about the scientists in Pasadena with Kaylee Cuoco, Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang
Oh,
Theory.
Big Bang. right.
That stars essentially character actors
Yeah.
Right.
who became big stars
Yeah.
and were very wealthy because they needed these nerdy kind of
Eccentric,
looking guys
yeah.
to play scientists.
Yeah.
And it was those guys for the right role, the right time, made them big stars. And
I credit that show for the enduring success of not least our conventions, but Star Trek in general. It made Star Trek bloody cool.
oh, that's
The
true.
Big Bang
You're
Theory.
right.
You're right.
And
Absolutely
on,
right.
on a much bigger platform.
Can you tell when someone walks in the door before they've said anything?
You get fooled because the look may be right, but the performance won't be.
Yeah.
Okay. It's all about.
And oftentimes the performance will sell you and not the look, and then you'll sort of
Lord knows,
readjust
I've
readjust your thinking on the look.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's the performance. It's as much as or more than the look is the performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
What did you think of Connor and Dominic during the casting of Enterprise?
I didn't have
Very
enough.
curious.
I didn't have enough awe.
I know he had to go
I
back
had
in
to come
6
back
times.
especially to meet you. I don't know if you remember that. You weren't available when I came in to see them as a sort of group, and then we had a special one-on-one
Oh, we did.
with you, me, and Rick. Yeah.
I liked them both right away. It was I don't remember that much. I know the hardest ones to cast were DePaul, and then we didn't know about Scott until the weekend before we started shooting.
Yeah, because he was doing a show in Toronto or something.
And they hadn't closed his deal. Everyone was sort of sure it was going to close, but not 100% sure.
Do they have backup?
No.
Shut the front door.
No, there was no backup.
It was him
like
or no one.
Him or no one.
What
Probably would have
what
promoted you.
happened? It would have just maybe had to go on ice and think again.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, Kerry McCluggage, who was the president of the
never knew that
studio, had been president of Universal when Scott had done Quantum Leap.
Quantum
They had
They were
a
mates, weren't they?
relationship.
Yeah, they were very
So I
tight.
think everyone knew it was going to happen.
Pretty
It's just a
close.
matter of how much money and all that kind of stuff had to be
Right.
worked out. But if you remember, when we started shooting the pilot, a week in, Kerry McCluggage had been in Europe, and he hadn't seen dailies, and he came back, he saw dailies, and he didn't like Scott's hair. He didn't like Scott's haircut.
His hair
It was always
a thing.
nicknamed Hair Trek.
So we had to reshoot all of Scott's work from the first week.
Oh my lord!
We went back. We
Yeah.
went back and reshot all of. We did his hair.
said
and
he looked
reshot
like
all
an
of his
insurance
stuff. Sometimes we had to
salesman or
do
something.
medium shots again, just close-ups, but we had to redo it. Yeah,
Wow. I did not
just
know
one
that.
one week's worth of shoot. I think it took 2 days to.
How
do
many
the reshoot.
girls did they see for Joe then? I mean, that's
Oh, a ton.
Loads.
It was forever trying to.
Were there
find
other
her.
contenders, or because I understand she turned it down? I don't know if that's the.
It was hard. Yeah, it wasn't. We wanted her, and she didn't want us at one point.
Right.
But it was very. It was one of these things where you're casting for the sexy girl on Star Trek,
Yeah,
so
right.
immediately a lot of people won't do it, and some of the people that are coming in weren't that interesting. She was
Right.
just fresh and unique.
She had the
And,
looks, didn't
she
they? You know,
looked
they love the look.
She had the
She-
Vulcan
Did you
look.
mind the fact that she brought that acting coach for all through your pilot? I mean, how much of a sort of snooze was that?
Were you
for
aware of that?
I wasn't. Don't even.
You don't even remember it? No. How about
So
that?
I never interfered with what I did. I do remember one funny story, and that is, I think before the scene where you guys have to go into the decontamination, she was getting undressed, and she had a piercing in her belly button.
Ah.
Yeah.
And nobody on the makeup crew could get it out. So
Yes.
they took her to Hollywood Boulevard.
That's
to
right.
One of the piercings.
That's right.
Oh, no
That's right.
kidding.
We
And
had to
she-
wait.
And she was in full makeup.
Yeah.
no
yeah,
kidding.
I remember this. We were actually shooting the
And
scene.
no one better than I.
That's an yeah, Hollywood.
And here's the kicker.
Huh?
The people who brought her there and back said nobody in the shop said a word about how she looked.
With the ears and everything.
Oh, Hollywood.
Oh, Hollywood.
Awesome.
That's brilliant story. I've never heard that story.
No.
That's
Awesome.
bloody
I
brilliant.
remember that. Yeah, they were like, "Oh no, can't do." Well, get in a van. We're gonna go get that sucker
I'm
taken
surprised they
out.
didn't just clip it off.
It's a real thing. Yeah.
Get one of the grips.
Johnny.
Yeah, they could have done that.
Yeah.
Well, this actually brings up an idea that Dominic and I were talking about earlier, and I don't want to put you on the spot because the cameras are rolling, but it would be lovely if you were willing to come back and watch Broken Bow with us and talk about
yeah,
the
we
process
did,
of
yeah.
putting Enterprise together, but putting
Yeah,
the
sure, we can
That'd
do
be
that.
awesome.
pilot
That'd be
together,
great.
casting, all of that
We
stuff.
do episodes as it were. So,
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be super fun.
That'd be awesome.
All right.
Jamie Friend 12 from Instagram asks, Mr. Conway, can you share your memories of working with Darren McGavin on Hangar 18? Thanks.
I loved working with Darren McGavin. I was a huge fan of his work, and I loved Kolchak, where he was the
Yeah.
that show. And he came, and that's sort of who he was. He was that sort of half bumbling, half smart kind of guy. He was friendly to everybody, totally prepared all the time. He was fantastic. It was great. It was one of my favorite experiences.
Awesome.
And
All right.
Leon Rippey, who was what a great actor he is.
Yeah.
Is he still with us? I don't know.
I don't know. Darren's not.
All right. Sorry, Dom.
No worries. All right. At the Big Guy 86 from Twitter asks, what was your first reaction stepping on a real Star Trek set?
Thrilled. I'll never forget one of my early first days on Next Gen was we were at the water recycling plant
Is that where you filmed that?
across from Woodley.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of the places
Oh,
there
okay.
and Huntington Gardens,
Okay.
which is close to my house now, and I go there all the time. But at the recycling plant, and that's when I think there were 7 people who
Beamed up and
beamed
that.
up,
Right,
and so
right.
I had them all
Or
lined
beamed
up.
down.
And I said, energize, and you freeze, step out, roll.
Right.
And the first time I got to do that was such a thrill. I'll
That
never
must have been
forget.
quite a thing because you had to lock off completely in those days.
Oh, it
and
was so
the
primitive.
camera couldn't move an iota.
We had to take the tripod and you had to bolt it down.
Right.
And then you had to go to a separate kind of camera that had 3-pin registration
Right.
so that there was no
Oh.
movement at all.
Oh.
And when you had a blue screen, it was blue screens then. A blue screen, you couldn't move the camera at all. And then it was interesting doing Star Trek over the years, over 18 years, how digital technology took over. And
Yeah.
by the end, you could be doing it with an iPhone.
Right.
But in the beginning, it was all so controlled, and it slowly got looser and better and better and better. So I was, as a filmmaker at the very beginning of the sci-fi digital, kind of revolution, and it was great to be part of it because it really, even now as a photographer, when I look at a scene, I don't see what's there. I see what I want to be there. Because I can take the photograph and then
go
add stuff and
fiddle
do
it.
stuff. And,
Right.
So I always look at, when I look at something, I'm looking at what I want it to be, not necessarily what it is.
You see
Right.
you see the bare bones of it, as it were, and then what I can sculpt out of this.
Right. And
Gotcha.
we're doing sci-fi, it's the same thing. How many times do you have act in front of a green screen or a blue screen
my
or
God.
against something?
I always found that the toughest acting there is, really, looking at the C-stand with a cross on it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Jan was holding it up.
Yeah,
and,
doing it to that.
and you were talking to that alone. Yeah.
Where Melissa should have been.
Right.
Kidding.
All right.
Never got charmed.
Again, not getting charmed.
Lena Forwell Cosplay from Instagram asks, "What is your favorite starship?"
Oh, the Enterprise.
Oh.
That covers all of them.
Easy.
I was going to say,
There you go.
they are
A,
going
B,
to hold
C,
us
D,
to task.
E, and F.
There you go.
That's funny.
No, it would have to be the Enterprise from Enterprise D. What were we?
We were the NX-01. D
NX-01,
was next gen.
Okay, so it was ours. The
And,
one we did in Enterprise.
NX-01
NX-01,
first.
yeah.
Were you a part of, I know the design was inspired by nuclear submarines. Were you a part of that conversation?
Herman was pretty well along the way of what he was doing. I contributed when I got there, but they had been thinking about this for months.
Right.
Herman was the production designer.
We just had him on.
Yeah.
He did great.
He's great.
Amazing.
He's a genius.
He is a
He really
genius.
is, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he attributes it always to other people. God bless him. Yeah. He's a very modest genius.
All right, next question. Here we go.
At Analog Rex.
Oh my gosh. That's a whole joke. All right. At Chris Vaness, 1892, from YouTube asks, "Hi James, did you play with rockets when you were a kid? And if so, did you go back to being 5 years old again when you were directing your first episode of Trek?"
That's a good question. Yes, I did play with rockets, but just a little bit, with the kind that you filled up with stuff and they would take off.
Oh, yeah.
But to me, directing is sort of like playing with toys on a set. When you were a kid with toy soldiers and stuff, and you would dress up, put them out there, and they'd do whatever you want. And sort of moving around actors and being on the stage is very much like that on some level.
Yeah.
So it is. It's like playing with the greatest play set ever made. So yeah, very much so.
Cool. All right. At Thicket Dweller from Patreon asks, "Thanks to Dom, Con, Mark, and Rose."
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this isn't a question. This is a thank you.
Oh, thank you from Thicket Dweller from Patreon. Thanks to Dom, Con, Mark, and Rose. Thanks for calling me Rose. And special thanks, Mr. Conway, for all the Treks and Broken Bow, the best Star Trek premiere made in the first 5 series. There you go.
Thank you.
I think
Thank
so
you.
too.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
the Enterprise pilot was the best pilot of all those Star Treks.
No kidding.
So were you a part of the conversation about... So I was Spike
Oh, yeah.
for the first week
That's right.
of the show. And then there's a long story about that and stealing booze from the
Buffy.
upfronts.
Well, they had a
Thinking
spike
I was going to
already.
get fired, but they had a spike on Buffy.
And then Angel.
And then Angel, right?
Yeah.
And Rick called me one day and said, "We're changing your
He
name."
thought he was getting
I
fired.
thought I was getting fired. I swear to God, I was.
We've been at the Europe sales
Jim, I was
thing.
on my knees in my little tiny kitchen in my apartment on Gower, and I was
Him
like,
and John Billingsley pinched a load of booze from the night, literally the night before.
So what happened was, is the
They
night.
clinked out of that.
So the night before this day, which we shot in that sewage treatment plant
In Long
by
Beach.
the beach.
Yeah.
The night before, we'd gone. They weren't the upfronts. They were
It
the
was the
advertising
European sales.
sales.
Yeah.
And John and Bonnie, his wife, and me and Ariana, we had a lot to drink. At the end of the night, I said, Paramount owns all this liquor, which means that we own all this liquor. So let's just pinch a few.
Yeah.
So he grabs 2 bottles, and I grab 2 bottles, and we get our car, and we get driven home. And then the next morning, I'm so hungover.
And we had a full
And we
day
have, to, we have to go
sewage
shoot
plant.
in this sewage plant, like 7 floors down.
Stank
And
to
I was
high
just,
hell,
I
do
was
you
just
remember?
like, and on the way home, I think it was a page. I don't think I had a phone yet. Rick Berman wants to talk to you. And I was like, God damn it, I'm getting fired. Because I stole booze. Get back to my apartment.
Borrowed booze.
Borrowed for a time until it was gone. And then got back to my apartment and literally in the kitchen, got on my knees and called his office. And he said, hey, buddy. And I thought,
This is good.
This is good. This is good.
Your fire didn't come out of his mouth.
And he goes, you know how you're Spike right now? And I said, yeah. He goes, I got a buddy whose son is a trip. I don't know what that means. And he said, well, he's a third, so they call him Trip. There's already a Spike on the network, so we're going to change your name to Trip. And I paused for a second. And I said,
That's it.
that's it? Is that all we're talking about? He's like,
You're
yeah,
not
see you
firing me?
tomorrow. And I was like, oh my God. I poured a big giant drink of whatever the hell that was.
Well, you should know. You probably know now that if you were getting fired, it would never be Rick who called to fire you.
Oh, is that
Oh,
right?
really? Yeah.
Oh God, no.
It's-
It'd be Brad in
It
his
would
leather
be
shoes.
your agent
Yeah.
who would say,
sure.
Would that be Mary Job?
no,
your agent?
no, it would be your agent.
Your agent would
It
tell
would
you.
never be anybody from the production. No. It would always be through your agent. Your agent would be the one.
And now I know. When my agent calls, I don't answer.
Hey, you know what I was thinking about when you were telling that story, Connor? I've known you for a while. Your best work is often when you're hungover.
Well, that means he could work on almost any day.
Exactly. Oh, that's not.
You want to see my? I'll do a monologue right now. Yeah, well, good.
Okay, those are all of our fan questions. Thank you
Okay,
very
Very
much.
cool.
Should we go to trivia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's time to play some Star Trek trivia. So the rules are pretty simple. It's you 3 against producer Mark. And today, James, Connor, and Dominic are playing for Michael Piazzoni, our Patreon member.
Piazzone.
Piazzoni, ciao.
Dollar.
Right.
Oh heavens! I'm playing for Dave, who just signed up
Dave
a
Tap?
little bit ago.
Dave who?
I don't know, Dave Kaufman, maybe.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Our newest Warp 3 member. Thank you for
God bless you, Dave.
signing up, Dave.
Thank
we
you, pal.
appreciate
Thanks, Dave.
All right. Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay. Question number 1. In Deep Space Nine, whose house did Jadzia join when she got married? A.
Mark.
Worf. B. Moog. C. Martok. D. Quark. Oh,
Mark. Yes.
Wow.
shit.
Dude. All right.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
what is it?
Martok.
Is it Martok? Yeah.
Because Worf is an honorary member of the House of Martok.
Now, why did she join a Klingon house?
Because she married Worf, and Worf was basically adopted into the
Oh, I was thinking
House
of Nikki.
Martok.
This is Terry.
Terry, yeah.
Oh, I was thinking of Nikki Bits.
Yeah.
All right. One
Okay.
zip.
Question number 2. In the original series, how many people served aboard the Enterprise when Pike was captain?
How many people?
Yes.
Fuck.
A. 203. B. 141. C. 650. Or D. 1,000.
Oh, I got green. Well, is it actually in that pilot episode then? How many people are
Will you read that
are
again?
on
How
board?
with
Yes.
the numbers?
I think it's the
numbers?
I think it's the 141.
I think so too.
Do you?
I think
Yeah.
it's a small crew.
It's a small crew. It's ringing a bell.
Or
Should we
the-
go with it?
or the
It's either the
600
203 or the 141.
Or 1,400.
My initial reaction was 203, but what do you think? Do you want to go with 141?
Yeah.
The 140, whatever.
All right, so I believe I know the answer, but I would really like it if you would ask the question again.
Okay.
Make sure it's not a trick question like what happened last time.
Question number 2. In the original series, how many people served aboard the Enterprise when Pike was captain?
I think he says over 1,000 when he's having a martini with
That
his doctor.
martini scene, is it?
Yeah.
Go on then.
So I'll go with 1,000.
Ooh,
six-
can it throw back to us?
Yes.
What were the numbers, Chris?
203, 141, 650, and 1,000.
I think it's the TO3.
203.
I think you're probably right for the first one.
I think it's 203. Yes!
Oh!
Good job.
Should never second guess.
Oh,
There we
good.
go.
Tied up.
One
How
all,
many-
baby.
how
Go
many
with your
questions
gut.
are
Go
there?
with your gut.
Yeah.
How many questions are there?
5.
We have a bonus just in case we need it. All right. Question number 3. In the Next Generation episode, Frame of Mind, what member of the crew thinks they're losing their mind when reality...
Get
Are
on
we
the buzzers.
done?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is going to be a quick draw.
All right. In the Next Generation episode, Frame of Mind, what member of the crew thinks they're losing their mind when reality keeps shifting between an alien hospital and the Enterprise? A. Worf, B. Riker, C. Picard, or D. Troy?
Did we get it?
Riker.
Yes, we did. Riker. Good on you, Jim. Ah.
All right.
Dominic and I were just talking about that one the other day.
There you were. Good episode. Directed by yours truly.
Yes, sir.
Oh, there it is.
Very well directed.
I love doing. It was fun to direct because I could do some. I was very stylish. I could do a lot of stylish stuff with it.
Yeah, really.
Question number 4. In the Enterprise 2-part episode In a Mirror Darkly, what alien species does Phlox torture?
Ooh.
A. Orion, B. Xindi, C. Vulcan, or D. Tholian?
Do we get it again?
Oh, wow.
Tholians.
Tholians?
Tholian.
Oh my gosh, you guys are
Look at
catching
that.
it.
Is that 3-1?
Yeah.
That's 3-1.
Shut the front door.
You guys are doing great. We'll do the last one for fun, right?
All right.
Okay. Question number 5. In Deep Space Nine, according to the Jem'Hadar, no member of their species has ever lived past what age? A. 50, B. 40, C. 30, D. 25.
Oh, I got it. The Jem'Hadar never lived past. That's a tough one.
What are the numbers again?
A. 50, B. 40, C. 30, D. 25.
I want to go with 30.
What?
30.
Oh! Very good.
Wow, look at that.
There's a new sheriff in town.
Yes, there's a new sheriff in town. That's
Very good.
that's what to take from that.
I'd like to give a special thank you to Zach and Chris from the Random Red Shirt
Thank you.
podcast
Yes.
Thank
for
you.
putting this together, the trivia that is.
Yay.
Thank you.
Also want to take this opportunity to remind everyone to like and subscribe. Like this episode, subscribe to our channel. Find us on socials. We're on all of them. If you can, join us on Patreon or right here on YouTube. You can become a member on YouTube here. We have merchandise. We have a website, shuttlepodshow.com. If you want to be a part of our community or if you're interested in finding ways to contribute to the sustainability of the show, we appreciate it. And we love you all. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Are we ready to see how James will do on a remote island with Connor TRINNEER?
We are.
Yep.
I hope there's alcohol.
You can choose it. So you are on a remote island by yourself, marooned for the rest of your life. It's not bad. You get the religious work of your choice and the works of Shakespeare. They're already there, like a Motel 6. And then you choose your cuisine. For instance, if you choose Italian, you get all Italian. Your musician / composer, all of their work, same thing. Dessert, you pick ice cream, you get all the ice creams. And then your author. And then you get a bonus item. And I always use the example of Jimmy Darren. You could choose something like a machete or a Leatherman, but he chose a Ferrari. And I said, why? He goes, you can't drive it around. I just want to sit in it.
On the beach.
On the beach.
Let the waves lap in.
Right. So who would your author be? For the rest of your life.
Michael Connolly,
Oh, yeah.
Good. Yeah.
who does the Bosch
Bosch,
books and,
yeah.
Lincoln Lawyer.
Yeah.
Lincoln Lawyer.
Yeah.
Lincoln Lawyer.
He's a fantastic novelist. Every one of his books.
Fantastic.
One came out today, I believe.
Is
Really?
that right?
A new one.
He's still just
Isn't he the biggest seller in the world? Isn't he? I think he is.
Well, he's one of them. I know that when I would go to book fairs to sign books and talk and stuff when my books first came out, there would be all these different authors, and there'd be a line of people that brought books to have them sign. And by far, books for Connolly's line were out the door. Everyone else was lucky to get one or two people, but literally out the door. People came with garbage bags full of books.
Really?
They bought all his books, and he would sign them.
Oh, wow.
Patiently. Yeah.
Did you ever read the Dick Francis series?
Oh, sure, all of them, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Written by his wife.
Yeah, I read some of
Apparently.
those back in the day.
Yeah, I read all of them.
Did
I
you?
I was obsessed with the Dick Francis books.
Did you read Chandler and Hammett? And,
All of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Love them.
Right.
Still read them occasionally. And I'm a big horse race fan, or I was. Spent a lot of time doing the races, so it was really fun with the Dick Francis.
Oh, they were great.
Yeah.
They were great. Your cuisine.
Italian.
Okay.
I love Italian.
Yeah, it's a good choice.
Your musician, band / composer.
Harry Chapin.
Oh, look at
Oh,
that.
really?
Oh, yeah.
Cats in a Cradle.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of these people whose death sort of shakes your belief in any kind of religion, because here's a guy who spent all of his time doing free concerts to raise money for the to feed the poor
Right.
all over the world. And he was killed in a car crash in his mid-30s, I think it was, late 30s, on New York
Tests your
Turnpike.
faith. On
It
that,
does.
right?
Here's a guy
Wow.
who does all these wonderful things for humanity taken away from us.
Yeah.
But I loved his music, and I still do.
Wow. Yeah.
I just was finishing this book called Trust, which is I recommend, and there's a lovely line at the end. God is the most uninteresting answer to some of the most unanswerable questions.
Oh, good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
kidding.
Dessert.
Back to dessert.
Hot apple pie with vanilla ice cream.
Oh,
You could just
pie.
you could say pie.
Has to have. Okay, well, it still has to have the ice cream. But
Oh,
it
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All
has
right.
to be
so
hot.
then-
Has to have ice cream. Vanilla
Okay.
ice cream.
I think that's probably fair.
I think so.
Yeah.
We can do that.
God, you're so benevolent.
I know. Well, there have been times where, like, the bonus item, you can't pick a person. You can't pick anything that gets you off the island. So your bonus item just makes your life a little bit better while you're on the island. And by the way, we're all posited
Oh, I know what it's going to be.
nearby.
A sand iron.
No,
And then the golf ball.
I'm going to say a pool table.
A pool table.
Oh,
Lovely,
look at that.
jubbly.
The
You
billiards.
play a lot. Yeah, you quite a.
When my oldest daughter went to NYU, we turned the den into. Got a pool table. I had a pool
Right.
table in there.
A
And
gold crown?
No, it was only an 8-foot.
Mm.
But
He's
when I
quite
was a
good.
kid, I used to play a lot of pool, and so then I played every day, and I went to pool school 3 times.
Did you really?
In Rockford, Illinois. I took it very seriously. Though I must say, I have a friend, Mike Adelson, who's a criminal defense attorney, who is an incredible pool player. So good, like this much below professional,
Right.
that when you play with someone like that who can control the cue ball so much,
Oh, yeah.
it's mind-blowing.
There's a beautiful
Nine
documentary just out now.
Nine
Do you-
ball.
9 ball.
Yeah.
9 ball
Do you
player.
Yeah.
know snooker very much?
Yes, I love snooker.
There's a documentary just out about Ronnie O'Sullivan, who probably is the most genius snooker player of all time. It's just out now on Netflix. I really recommend. He was a troubled cat, but a genius.
One of the things I've been doing since Becky passed is traveling, and I went last October on a round-the-world trip through National Geographic to 12 countries in 24 days.
Oh, that's
So it was
amazing.
like- it was-
God.
they have a big National Geographic jet, and there's 70 business class seats, then crew and stuff. And so
Any
it was
assholes?
no, it was all.
Everyone was cool.
They were all rich
All right.
because they're expensive, but they were all very nice. But when I got COVID the very last day in Marrakesh,
Oh.
so I was stuck there for 5 days. And one of the things I would watch on television, they had a BBC channel. They were showing snooker.
Snooker.
And
Isn't
there
it
were
great?
a couple of times where they would just break and run the table, which is so
Ronnie,
Amazing to watch.
It's amazing to
Ronnie
watch.
got 147 in under 5 minutes, more than once,
Wow.
and that's not one mistake. You pot the red, pot the black, pot the red, pot the black, pot the red, pot the black, all the reds.
Total
gone.
control.
And then
It's just
total
great to watch.
control.
No, the original game
And
was
it's a
played-
12-foot table.
It's a
Yeah,
huge
it's
thing.
massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a gold crown in my house for several years.
Nice.
9 foot.
Yeah.
Beautiful table.
Did you get good?
I did. I'm not bad. I've
He's
got.
pretty
You know,
good.
I'm pretty good.
Oh, he's great. During COVID, we used to play.
Yeah.
'Cause-
The original game had no pockets.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can. There's still
And
a
how
few
would you
places.
score?
in town that
There's
have
one place in like North Hollywood next to the Deja Vu strip joint. I don't know why. That has a
Billiard
pocket free.
Where's that, Con?
What? How would you?
It's in
How would you
North
score?
It's
You
because
hit another ball. It's
you have to. I think in that original game, you have to hit 3 rails before you hit a ball,
Yeah.
and that's how you score.
A bit like billiards.
It is billiards.
Yeah.
Billiard,
Yeah.
right.
Play a game called Cowboy.
How's that one go?
Oh, my
you taught me
goodness.
that. Yeah, I remember that.
Cowboy, you get 3 balls, one in the top third,
They're
in the
switching
center.
off one by one right now.
Yeah, and then you put they're all going away. Sorry. And then one in the center, one on the side. And to start, you have to. There's only 3 balls on the table, and you have to make a billiard hit 2 balls. Now, from that point, you can then score 21, but you've got to either pocket a ball or hit 2 balls for a billiard. It becomes fascinating, and also where you hit the ball in. So, like in the top third, it goes back in the top third.
Right.
So it's a fascinating.
I remember
game.
playing that with
Yeah,
you. Yeah,
it's great
Good
fun.
game.
I've never heard of that game.
Yeah, it's a
that
really
a local thing?
Cowboy for
Cowboy.
Cowboys.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Jim.
Oh yeah,
What a joy to see
thank
you,
you
man.
so much for
We
coming.
have
Cheers,
that
pal.
gift for you that you
Oh yes, we have a little gift
Got a
for
gift
you.
for you.
got a peek at earlier.
Yes.
This is a nice Cabernet from Alamitos Vineyards.
Fabulous.
Thank you, Sean and Chris.
Thank you, Sean and Chris.
Howdy, hi.
Alamitos is in San Jose, and it's really beautiful there.
Yeah.
I recommend you check it out.
What do we get?
Thank
What
you
is that
so
one?
much.
That's a Cabernet
The cab.
The cab's lovely.
I love
It's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if
Excellent,
you
thank
are a fan of Star Trek and a fan of wine, and you're interested in trying Alamitos wine, there's a promo code for you in the description of this video.
His
Fabulous.
family draws, or their family
Oh yes.
makes
Yeah.
all the drawings for
Labels.
the
Oh,
label
very nice. Excellent.
paintings.
Have you guys been up there?
Yes, we
Yes,
funnily
we
enough
have.
just have. Yeah.
Beautiful.
A couple times now.
It's
Yeah.
really a gorgeous place. Yeah, they've got a nice spot, and they make some bloody good wine. I have
You
to
should
say.
head up there. They would take care of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have tastings and all that sort of behaviour, and there's a 5-star restaurant literally 300 yards from
Yeah.
the house.
Seriously?
Yeah, no
Yeah.
kidding. I mean,
Well,
it's
French
a spot.
It's amazing.
It's known
It's
to be
really-
the
Yeah,
oldest,
right by a creek. And,
oldest hotel in the nation, right?
It's the-
Yes.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Originally was.
No, it's
No?
one of the oldest hotels in California.
Okay,
That's what it is,
California.
yeah.
What's it
Uh,
called?
What's that restaurant called? Do you remember?
I forget.
God.
Lay.
Lay something.
Lit
Lay off
it starts with an F. I have it in my notes.
And Sean's got a garage of cars, but the one in the garage right now is a Pantera.
LaFerre.
La
He
Ferre.
took me in the Pantera
Wow.
for 300-400 yards, whatever it was.
Got there in a
My
heartbeat.
lord.
I made the mistake of standing at the back when he was going to fire her up to get her out of the garage, and it fair blew my bloody head off.
Oh,
Really?
I was
my lord.
I was in the the Tesla Plaid, the one that goes so fast. It's 0 to 60 in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Good
And
God.
so this was a Sunday, and so he said, okay, and he stopped and he floored it. It pins you to the back of the seat. It's so fast, it's terrifying how fast it goes. 'Cause you were just hoping he stops in time.
Yeah.
I have to say, not for me, that kind of
No,
behavior.
I wouldn't know what you want to go that fast.
No.
It's
So
really
I
scary.
don't care for it much now.
And then not have to drive it yourself and just be like, go ahead.
Yeah.
Right.
Give me
Very
a
nice car,
jalopy.
though.
A jalopy.
Yeah.
A sand buggy. A dune buggy.
Yeah, God bless. Well, listen, mate. We can't wait to have you back. We'll come. We'll
Yeah,
do an
yeah.
episode.
We'd
Yeah.
love to watch the episode of
Yeah, we'll do it.
That would be great.
Or we could watch Through the Mirror Darkly and talk about the pirates.
Oh, we have to.
Maybe
do
we'll
that.
just do the include that clip from that.
There
That
we
clip.
go.
We should definitely review.
That's
Or maybe you'll just have to come back a couple
We
of
should
times.
definitely review the first scene.
Yeah, you could probably see in my eyes, I hate what I've done.
Let's see it. Let's see it.
That's fucking Conway.
I'm gonna go back and look at it. Actually.
Cut print. No!